Love Life has no doubt had its fair share of talented individuals. I mean, every group has a composer, a costume designer, and all have amazing vocals. It's actually quite a miracle how they just managed to pick up everyone that's needed for an idol group. But it's a fictional series, so what do I know? Either way, all of them are producing god-tier music and costumes. We've had arcs and conflicts that occur because of their skills and accomplishments, but they aren't the one thing that defines them. Kotoi's a legendary fashion designer, but has a heart of gold and knows when to take advantage of it. Yo loves outfits, but has a strong case of jealousy. Riko is gay. They all have other defining traits in the story that if you remove their role, they don't just suddenly disappear. Even then, it's not given the main focus as it's a school idol show, and we mostly get what inspires the songs within the events we see. It's never really been an issue of the Love Life series, but more so a personal pet peeve of mine since I've had involvement in aspects that could be considered idol-like. Music videos, editing, all that jazz, there is a lot of work that goes into it, and it's the reason why I'm into characters like Arena, Hime, and Mizuki, because they tend to show the actual technical and specific aspects of doing their job, the time needed to finish it, and most importantly, the mental struggles that come with it. Music, editing, costume designing, these are art forms that thrive on creativity, to have an idea behind it and a purpose. The Love Life series has done a good job at showing the idea behind songs and how they come to fruition, but I do feel like they've struggled with showing the struggle, if that makes sense. Issues and solutions revolving around the songs are typically handled in a short manner, usually taking the approach of metaphorically telling us they found the answer via actions and little words. Those raindrops? My mind's tonight. It's not unrealistic by any means, and I've had personal experiences similar to that, but I feel like they're missing out on a big part of the creative process, which is how hard it is. Riko from Aqua is someone who gets very close to this, with the series starting with her losing her passion in composing, and how her journey through Love Life Sunshine is all about refinding it. It's one of my favorite parts of her character, but it lacks one small thing that, in my opinion, is the biggest part of anything that you do. Now, what is it? Well, let's start by introducing the star for this video. Now, if you watched any of my past videos, you probably know what I'm gonna say, but Nijigasaki was heavily experimented on by the Love Life series. This not only includes new structure and characters, but also different tropes and situations that have been done before to mix reception. Let's focus on the new situations though, because those have the most to talk about. How about a student council president that hates school idols? Oh, that's already been done before? Okay, let's make her actually try to kill the school idol club. That hasn't been done before. What's next? Let's have a character be an antagonist and take over the club and kick them out and have security guards to stop them from practicing. What the fuck? Okay, some of these situations were quite bizarre, and being frank, despite some elements being cool, it doesn't mean everyone loved it. But that doesn't mean all the new situations they did were ass. In Love Life School Idol Festival All-Stars, at the end of chapter 19, Shizuku is ambushed by her childhood friend Lanzhu, who arrives from Hong Kong to become a school idol. In the midst of their conversation, Lanzhu introduces Shio to her friend she made, and she has some very welcoming words.
Shit!
Hello! For this video, I'm collabing with Idol Story to do a giveaway for this Mia Taylor Nesso you see here. Not the term one, she's mine. There are only 3 steps you gotta take. 1, this is optional, subscribe if you want, I make Love Life content. The second step is that within the first 12 minutes of this video, there is a secret code that will be present on screen. You won't miss it, it will have an Oshawott sound effect associated with it. Now I can't stop you from scrubbing for the video to find it, but the reason for this is because Idol Story thought it best to make sure the person receiving the Mia Taylor Nesso is an actual Love Life fan and knows Mia's character. I've strategically placed a code word in a spot that showcases many of her unique traits in the series, including Mia's resolve, which may or may not be a hint. Anyway, after you find a code word, check the description for a Google form. Enter your information, the code word, and you're in. Giveaway ends 9th to the 20th, so have fun. Anyway, back to the video. This is Mia Taylor, a character hailing from the most legendary location of all, New York. She was kidnapped by Lanzhu while in Hong Kong, and while we aren't aware of her deal yet, she certainly made an entrance. Like I mentioned in my Lanzhu video, the introduction of new characters had some people on edge as Shizuku had just settled in as a new member of the school idol club. With some mixed reactions, it was definitely something new for the Love Life series, but this post-credit scene told Love Life fans that the experiments weren't stopping. In fact, it was just getting started. In the time gap between season 1 and season 2, Anata-chan, basically Yutagasaki, studies abroad for a music course, leaving the rest of Nijigasaki primed for the picking by a certain Chinese girl. When Anata-chan returns, the idol club has already been taken over by Lanzhu, and while she's at the front of it all, it doesn't mean she's handling everything. When Lanzhu talks to Anata-chan, she reinforces how amazing the association is, and how every aspect of it is incredibly professional, including the songs. It's here where Mia Taylor is officially introduced. A 14-year-old composer from the United States that's so talented she's registered as a 3rd year despite her age. She hails from the Taylor family, consisting of famous composers and singers, with her being one of them. She's in charge of producing the music for the association, and she knows it. Immediately when talking to Anata-chan, Mia reaffirms how she is the best and how she's incredibly nonchalant about her music composing. Even when complimented by Anata-chan, she doesn't really take it to heart and is basically like, yeah, I already know. Lanzhu shows how Mia can instantly analyze anything and make the best song out of it. It's a very interesting contrast between the way Anata-chan talks about music compared to Mia, with Anata-chan speaking in a much more passionate way about music, and Mia being incredibly bored out of her mind talking about it. And that is something we'll focus on very soon. In a way, she's sort of an egoist like Lanzhu, which makes makes them a terrifying duo. Despite her insane confidence though, she's content being the behind-the-scenes person, following Lanzhu's orders while doing her own thing. The best example I have is if Whist is watching this, it's like him asking me to make an intro or asset for him, and I'm like, bet, and make it without any direct instructions because I know Whist will like him no matter what. At this point in the story, the only thing Mia is known for is her music skills. It's what Lanzhu introduces Hinata-chan to, and considering in lore we just heard Queendom, yeah, she definitely knows her shit. I mean, she has a whole room full of music tools, probably a pirated version of FL Studio somewhere, like 100 crack plugins anyway. At the end of chapter 20, Shizuku leaves the school idol club to join the association, marking a new change in Mia's character. Mia's perception of music is shown more clearly with her first interaction with Shizuku. The first thing she asks her is how many octaves she can sing, what's her singing range, and Shizuku's like, bro, I just sing, I don't know. Mia takes her job very seriously, radiating a very pissed off aura to anyone who doesn't meet her standards or knowledge, and saying Shizuku meets the bare minimum. It's also noted by Lanzhu that Mia doesn't usually leave her songwriting room, implying that she spends most of her time there. This whole chapter is basically delving into Mia's role in the association. She creates the songs, she composes the melody, and most importantly, she decides whether the music gets used or not. She tosses fully completed tracks into the trash on a whim, causing characters like Shizuku and even Lanzhu to be like, wait, what? Only perfect songs are worth keeping around, is the quote Mia uses to describe how she views music. It must be perfect, and she takes steps to ensure that is the case. She doesn't just analyze data, she gathers as much as she can to find the one thing she's looking for, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. She spends all-nighters just to finish her work, and she's so into it that she can smell the data, whatever the fuck that means. All the time and effort pays off in her mind, as her ego is incredibly present as she feels that people should be grateful to even sing her songs. And while she believes that, Shizuku doesn't exactly share the sentiment. You see, when Shizuku joined the association, she thought it would be a better fit for what she wanted to do. She wanted to get better, and the association seemed like it had everything going for it. The professional training rooms, the professional composer, there was just one issue that stopped it from being perfect. And that was the issue. Being perfect. The association thrived on perfection. Only those who were perfect would be in the spotlight, to have their visions be shown. This was in direct contrast to the school idol club, where anyone was free to express their vision. In fact, it's the whole point of Nijigasaki both in lore and in real life, since the group is based on individuality. Shizuku single-handedly witnesses this when watching Kasumi's performance, in which it isn't perfect, but Shizuku can sense everything that Kasumi is attempting to express, and she doesn't feel that with Mia's song. Before her performance, Shizuku teams up with Hinata-chan in order to create a song that fully encapsulates her, and performs it instead of Mia's song. It's a great day for the Squadro Club as Shizuku rejoins it, but the association is kinda pissed. Lanzhu just lost a member, and Mia's pissed because her perfect song wasn't used. Lanzhu vows to show just how much better the association is, encouraging Mia to keep making better songs. Mia, however, brushes Lanzhu away, and the end of the chapter ends with her criticizing the song Shizuku performed, yet wonders why it's still stuck in her head. As the conversations regarding Season 2 of All Stars started, most of the focus went over to Lanzhu. I don't want to repeat many of the things I said in the Lanzhu video, so you can go watch that if you're curious on why people were pissed off at this season. There's no real reason to go back into it since we're focusing on a character that didn't really have much to talk about. Mia's presence was very limited, being relegated to that one co-worker you see sometimes. Because of her position as a composer and being incredibly shut in, there wasn't really anything positive or negative to talk about her. She was someone who did her job, and that was it. Traces were sprinkled, however, and the end of chapter 21 alludes to Mia perhaps being more than meets the eye. But we'd have to delve into chapter 22 to fully understand what that means. And out of every chapter so far, this is the only one that, if you ask some people, is the only good chapter out of season 2. It's a bad day for the association. The Squadro Club is beginning to regain its popularity, and all eyes are on Mia Taylor to produce the next banger that can bring them back. However, Mia is not exactly doing well. She's been cooped up in her room more often, and while the other members express concern over it, Lanzhu is very quick to relieve their worries. Mia Taylor is a prodigy. She's not your average musician. She doesn't suffer from writer's block. She was quite literally born to be talented, as each of her family members is a prodigy themselves. Please note that this all comes from Lanzhu's point of view, and it rubs off Mia herself as the chapter goes along. When Mia finally comes out of her room to have everyone listen to the song, Lanzhu immediately shuts it down, stating that's essentially shit. While harsh, Lanzhu states that's more disrespectful to lie about it, and what's good is good, and what's bad is bad. She exposes Mia for being cooped up because she can't compose a good song, expressing her disappointment because it's Mia's duty to make songs that satisfy her, implying that the only reason she's here is because of her composing skills. When she brings up the Taylor family, Mia gets silent, and this whole conversation is shitting on Mia. I senses traces of Hinata-chan's music in Mia's new song, with Mia taking full offense to that, considering Hinata-chan an infant, an amateur in music making, and interpreting it as them saying that she's losing out to a baby. Her obsession over this leads her to do more all-nighters, slowly comparing her work to Hinata-chan. But no, she's Mia Taylor, she's a prodigy, and this Hinata-chan lacks any skill to go against her, yet she can't get it off her mind. It eventually ends with her collapsing due to not eating anything, leading her to meet Rina, in which we learn more about Mia's personal life. Making music. That's all she does. She eats, sleeps, watches baseball, and composes. That makes up most of her life. She doesn't even go out except when she's dragged out by Lanzhu. Rina understandably expresses concern over this, but makes an offhand comment on how much she wishes she could hear Mia sing, as all of her songs are for the association members. Mia does not take it well, and it only gets worse as she still can't get Anata-chan's songs out of her mind. It's not just the association members, it's not just herself. She's being shown in real time that people are enjoying the School Idol Club songs more than the association. But why? She's put all this effort into perfecting her music, but for some reason it's not clicking with people. People are instead clicking with the amateur songs, the ones unpolished, the ones unskilled, the ones that have a connection between the performer and the listener, and not just an analytically perfectly made song. Huh. Well, fuck them anyway. It's obvious that amateurs and non-composers don't understand music, so why should their opinions matter? But for some reason, she keeps comparing her work to the School Idol Club, and it keeps getting in her head. She can't compose anymore. She's delaying her music. She's lashing out at the other members. She's being pressured. The audience is decreasing. All of it traces back to that one event. Why did Shizuku use Anata-chan's song instead? What was that one core difference that changed everything? She's Mia Taylor. She makes songs. That's what she does. That's all she does. That's her job. That's her role. That's the only reason she's here. That's her only importance. That's what Lanzhu says. Since the day she was born, she was trained on this. So why is it failing her now? For some reason, she keeps comparing. When Rina finds Mia, her first instinct is to ask if the reason why everyone's looking for her is because the song isn't done yet, prompting Rina to be dumbfounded. Mia Taylor, who can't produce music, isn't someone that should be cared about. At least that's what Mia thinks. In this one episode, Mia finally reveals that she's burnt out. She can't create anything. It used to be so easy to get into the flow, analyzing trends and visualizing it into a masterpiece. But it was the one song Shizuku sang that changed everything. It wasn't that the song was better logically, but the fact the song perfectly fit Shizuku more than hers. She's scared. Her history of the Taylor family is revealed, with the reason for her no longer being able to sing coming from a failed performance in which she couldn't even get a single noise out. What went from passion turned to a duty in order to preserve her name, to preserve herself. She was spiraling herself further and further down, and Anata-chan's song was the one thing to make her realize it. She determined her entire worth on music, so if that falls apart, then she has no reason to go on. Rina doesn't accept that, however, stating that they both like hamburgers and video games. It makes sense in the story, I swear. Rina is able to sway Mia into realizing her songs contain the deepest parts of her, both the internal and external feelings she kept bottled up for years. She helps Mia realize that in her pursuit for creating music for others, that music was really being created for her, and she didn't realize it. With their conversation, Mia finally refines her passion for music making, finally embracing her true feelings, causing her to sing her first song, I'm Still. And there is a lot of stuff to discuss here. But firstly, I do want to apologize for essentially recapping the story. Not gonna lie, this was like the least fun part to write because I don't really enjoy retelling the same story beats, so let's get to analyzing. Mia Taylor is a character that is defined by her music. She is a prodigy. She knows it, everyone knows it, even people outside Nijigasaki. The first two chapters are written in a way so that's the only thing you know her for, contributing to her conflict in chapter 22. Now, characters losing their passion or having burnout is nothing new for Love Life, but the way it's done here is more intriguing and also more relatable to me, so it's cooler. There are 3 reasons for why Mia's arc works. 1, the individuality of Nijigasaki, 2, Lanzhu and the association, and 3, comparison. The individuality of Nijigasaki is one I pointed out multiple times on the channel, as both a positive and a negative. Members are free to express their views and specific goals that they want to achieve. It allows for creativity and a unique style that no one else can replicate. Season 2 tried showing the negative sides to individuality of Karen, Shizuku, and I, but that had issues which you can learn about in the Lanzhu video. How this works in Mia's favor though is that the focus is all on her. Because of the way Nijigasaki is structured, Mia is left on her own to find the style that she personally wants. A big difference with other Love Life groups is that groups were united. They're all individuals, but they all work together as a team, sharing goals and working together to create a vision that they all partially share. That is not the case here. Mia's issue is that her goals for making music are for others, no matter what lies she may say about her ego and how great her songs are. It's shown very clearly that she's hiding her feelings in her songs, even in the ones that are made for others to sing. This is why Mia's character works for Nijigasaki. I'm not saying it wouldn't work for a normal group like Layla, but having the main focus on Mia and how she finds her own individual reason for music making is much more intriguing when we know she's doing it for herself and only herself, as shown at the end of chapter 22. This conflict is helped by Lanzhu, and she helps push Mia's arc in an amazing way. Unintentionally. I can easily see why chapter 22 is one of the better chapters of season 2, because it's one of the few chapters that take advantage of the situation. The association and the School Idol Club are pitted together, and it creates an actual physical challenge that pushes the story. Lanzhu's aggressive and being frank, oblivious nature contributes to Mia's albeit flawed mindset. We already know she's taking all-nighters and not eating just so she can produce music, and Lanzhu just lets it slide. She doesn't even believe that Mia can have difficulty with writing a song, which shows just how much confidence she has in her, but it also leaves Mia with more pressure that eventually causes her to blank out. The vibes of chapter 22 take the rivalry as a serious thing, and it works in this one chapter only, since it's focusing on Mia's struggles who interprets it as being that serious since it's involving her composing skills. It's not Lanzhu that helps Mia, it's Rina. And it makes sense thematically to have a character who learned how to express their emotions helping someone who's having the same issue. This situation only happens though because of the rivalry between the association and the school idol club. Because of this very unique situation in love life, the stakes are raised in a very natural way that I bet anyone can relate it to when you're being dependent on. It isn't enough for Mia to have individual issues with her music, it's also other people having issues with her music. Mia's issues are very self-inflicted and it has to be someone outside her friend circle in order to break through, and I love that. But I'm talking surface level here. These reasons are partially why I like Mia's character, but I've been purposely hiding the third reason for why Mia's arc works. And more than that, why Mia works as a character and what she does. Comparison. I'm a video editor. You probably know that though. I started editing in 2014, making poorly made Windows Library Maker videos in hopes that someone would watch it and I'd be famous and popular. In 2019, I got into motion graphics, doing visuals that I felt represent who I was. In the 2020s, I would begin making edits, begin editing for content creators. If you were around the 2022 era, you probably remember me posting some of them. I can 100% tell you that during that whole entire time, I was depressed. Now why? There's many reasons for why someone would feel that way, but there were a multitude. Thinking that I wasn't worth it, thinking that if my next edit or video wasn't good enough, my life would be over, that no one would miss me. The only worth I had was video editing and nothing else. Pretty depressing, huh? It all came down to one thing though, and the one thing I connected Mia with. Comparison. Comparing the way Anata-chan talks about music compared to Mia. Comparing the way Mia produces music compared to Anata-chan. Comparing the song Shizuku sang to the one she made. All of this is comparison. Comparing is the one thing that breaks her apart and rebuilds her. Are you an artist, an author, a cosplayer, someone who writes fan fiction? Maybe you're a fellow video editor such as yours truly. How did it feel, feeling proud of yourself, whatever accomplishment you made, a custom-made cosplay, a well-edited video, another glorious art piece? How did it feel being proud of it, feeling content? Maybe it felt good, maybe it felt amazing, a sense of dopamine rush through your brain. You maybe consider yourself really Prodigy of the amount of all-nighters and hours you spent working on it. Now, how did it feel to see someone else do it better than you? Maybe their post got more likes. Maybe you look at it and see things you wish you did, either be an art piece or video. What would you do? How would you feel? What if they were younger than you? What if they were more talented than you? What if you figure out they just started getting into it while you have years of practice? You start thinking to yourself, how the fuck are they better than me? What am I doing wrong? Was it the way I did things? Was it the way I initially learned? What's lacking in me that I'm not able to do what I see? I'm good, right? I'm still good at what I do. I'm not useless, right? What if they make videos better than me? What if they make it faster than I ever could? What if they don't even take it as seriously as I do? What the hell have I been doing my entire life? Why am I even doing all this? Do I actually want to do it out of passion, out of love? Or do I just want numbers, popularity, or recognition? Now visualize that in a 2022 Noodle mindset, and I think almost all of you can understand why I love Mia as a character. Everyone reacts to comparison in a different way. Some people use it as a way to boost themselves, knowing that they can achieve that. It can be an inspiration for some, but it can also be a detriment for others. In times when your reason for doing something is tested, you'll discover whether or not you actually have the passion or reason for doing something. Mia subconsciously has been hiding the real reason she makes music, and is tested when her work is compared to Anata-chan. It's a challenge for her, it leaves her vulnerable, and she has to genuinely open herself up to figure out why she does what she does, how she treats music as a part of her and a curse that dictates whether or not she deserves to live. That's what I experienced. When I was tested by comparing my own work to others, it was something that made me question why I edited, why I left so much of my life dedicated to editing that if a post flopped, my entire mental state would be shattered apart. That mindset is dangerous, no shit, and it can only be focused on when you're put in a position when you need to. If Mia Taylor did not encounter Anata-chan in her songs, she wouldn't question the way she made songs. In the future that might happen, but in the events of season 2, if that scene did not happen, her entire character would keep spiraling until she quits music, thinking it's just a burnout when in reality, she was just hiding her feelings. When I was heavily depressed and dedicated my whole life to video editing, that was when I created some of my best work. My best edits, my best visual effects, that was all in that era. When I overcame it, and I use that term very loosely because it's still present in my life, I had to rethink and refine my reasons and passion for editing. I had to learn how to edit in the mindset of wanting to edit and not needing to edit. If I didn't edit, that's okay. I didn't need to. My life isn't gonna feel like shit and explode. That difference is very large, and I felt that reading Mia's story. Mia actually reminds me of a character from another idol series, Enna from Project Sekai. I've dived into Enna's character in the very long forgotten Project Sekai video, don't watch it, but I heavily relate to how she had her life depend on the creation of art to the point of being incredibly toxic. It's one of the few characters alongside Mia that I fully relate to in terms of creation involving creativity and whether or not the passion is good or not. That's the thing with this kind of stuff. It's always the creative shit, the ones that require the most brain power. The moment you doubt yourself, it's all gonna fall apart, and in a hobby that requires you to always be thinking outside the box, that's a death sentence. When you compare yourself to others, you're looking at completely completely different brains, different mindset that determine what they create. That in itself isn't bad. It's when it conflicts with the reason why you do something and how much importance it is to you. I edit to have a voice, to showcase my feelings and emotions, which I sometimes overstay in my videos, but whatever. It's important to me, but not so important that's taken my life hostage. That's the key difference, and comparison is something that determines whether or not you find your path. I know some people won't feel how I feel. Some people are luckily normal, and they don't have to bear having these kinds of thoughts. Some people may not understand a word I'm saying, and that's alright too. It just makes characters like Mia more special, because it shows that many issues I have do exist, and having them overcome it gives me hope that I can too. Oh shit, right, this is a Mia video. So after chapter 22, Mia doesn't really get much to do in terms of substantial events. She gets to hang out with Rina, and she still maintains her position as composer, but is a lot more open with experimentation and comparing. We see that in her conversations with Lanzhu, as her new mindset shows that when it comes to an art like composing, it's not just what logically qualifies as the best. It's like when Vegeta refused to use a scout device after realizing that power can't be calculated in logical numbers. That makes any sense? I don't know. Either way, she's a lot more happy and actually goes outside now, so go figure. A rivalry begins growing between Anata-chan and Mia, with Mia calling her a little baby. Why? I don't know, I forgot. It's probably something to do with like because Anata-chan is still like an amateur composer. Mia's definitely one of the better additions in season 2, and it's no wonder why people enjoyed her presence. She had a whole chapter focused on her, and she doesn't really give a fuck. Multiple times she's chilled with the Squadro Club and doesn't really care about the conflict. She ignores Lanzhu's pleas to advertise the association, and she's just in the series for the vibe, and on one hand, I like it, but on the other hand, it just shows how discombobulated this season is, and how it shifts from serious rivalry to not giving a shit about it at all. And all of it just paints Lanzhu in the worst light, as she's the only one really being affected by the bad writing since she's the start of it all, but I already went in depth with all that. Also, not gonna lie, Mia's a little low IQ. This is a public service announcement. Please do not put veggies in the washing machine. The little segment in chapter 26 where Mia and Anata-chan get to have a heart-to-heart about composing is probably one of my favorite moments. It's just two composers being able to talk about how they make music, and with the context of Mia finally rediscovering her purpose for composing thanks to Anata-chan, it makes the conversation more endearing. It's definitely something I think is done slightly better in the anime thanks to Nijigasaki being more of a character, but the anime has slight issues with Mia that I'll talk about soon. At the end of season 2, the association disbands and everyone joins together because fuck good right. I'm joking. The only good part is Mia being the one to compose a song for Lanzhu. I mean, what? Anyway, it's a brand new day for the Squadro Club, and that means a lot for Mia in regards to her composing skills. For the longest time, she was mainly solo and kept to herself, including having very unhealthy habits that encourage that behavior. But now she's fully around like-minded individuals who share the same goals as her, and one of the best parts is being open to learning more. She still has her ego and somewhat narcissistic personality, but she knows when to chill the jokes since she got humbled all the way back. A big part of her character is getting out of her shell both physically and mentally. I already mentioned she used to do all-nighters and didn't go out, but now she's out and about. This isn't to imply she's socially inept or anything like that, she's just introverted. Okay, well, she's inept at some things. The most interesting scenario she gets herself into in the later chapters is learning the work of others in regards to composing. She's now in a position where she isn't just making the music and getting it done all by herself. She now needs to team up to create a shared goal, one that can encapsulate more than just her. Her Bond story shed a bit more light on this, alongside showing the fact that she really loves baseball, which I mean, pretty good sport, so I won't argue against that. A big portion of her Bond stories revolves around her still wondering about her true passion for music making, and whether or not singing is a part of that passion. It's not just expressing her feelings, but the goal she wants out of it. She wants to be recognized, to have it go viral and across the world, but should her voice be a part of that? I like that she's still indecisive about this, as the events of season 2 still had her producing music for others, so by the time we get to the Bond stories, she's had more time to focus on herself. She's still placing standards and expectations on herself, and overcoming that allows her to finish the very first song she ever wrote for herself, Toy Doll. Not gonna lie, she should've kept us in the drafts. A big part of her character I sort of neglected is her family history, as it serves as the biggest source of standards/expectations for her. She still feels that she's staying the name of the Taylor family, and saying it once again, she needs to figure out how to sing and compose for herself. Her Bond story ends up with her sister wanting to sing with her, prompting her to finally be able to stand for her family name. Then Cephas died. Yep, the end. So who is Mia Taylor? A prodigy in music making burdened by herself and her family name. She didn't just have the Taylor name, she had the talents of one. Masterful in composing any track for anyone. She had reason to believe the world revolved around her, and even then she pretended not to care. But she did care, and it slowly got poured into the songs she made for others. When her ego is cracked by having someone choose someone else's song over her own, she begins to question why she even made music in the first place. Her behavior and the actions she took were already questionable. She took all-nighters, isolated herself, but it didn't matter as long as results were created. Right? No one seemed to care. In fact, it was the norm, so when Mia inevitably shuts down, no one was able to save her. except for pink french fries. I know people make the usual shit jokes and the hamburger memes, but part of me does wish people acknowledge this aspect of Mia. She is someone who is constantly trying to live up to the prodigy status that was put onto her. What goes from an unironic case of ego narcissism turns to one more ironic, as it's now more clearly used as a way to hide behind certain feelings. Her development isn't as clear-cut as certain characters, but the fact she's around the other members shows just how much she's changed. Not to slander Lanzhu, but if Mia was only around her for the events of season 2, she definitely would have lost her passion for music. Mia's a character that I find myself appreciating more and more for a multitude of reasons, and most of it is personal bias. It's always a joy seeing characters in shows or books be able to encapsulate feelings that you feel might be isolated to yourself. I'm glad with a ton of stories now, they've been allowed to delve into topics like those, no matter how complex and nuanced they might be. Sometimes people just look at it from a surface level, but not to sound stupid, only those who know will really understand it. Some of my most memorable or infamous memories all those years back are spending all-nighters looking through edits, just trying to grab and analyze so I can put it in my own to raise my ego that I wasn't worthless, avoiding time with friends because I felt that my worthiness came from editing rather than, I don't know, just spending time with them. It's a scary mindset, and one that no one can really help with. If nothing happens, you'll just spiral over and over until there's nothing of you left. There's no reason for you to change unless something happens. But if that something does happen, you have to make a decision what to do. Will you accept it? Fight back against it? Seek a third option? The way we react to change can change us fundamentally, and I've seen cases of people having change make them hit even further than rock bottom, which only shows how cases like Mia Taylor show the brighter side of it. Those who know, those who don't know, who knows? Well, the amount of praise I gave Mia in All-Stars, you'd hope they'll get transitioned over to the anime. But like many other characters in the anime universe, they got slightly neutered, and Mia is no different. In all fairness though, she's the least changed. Most of her character is kept intact, it's just the events and arc that are slightly changed that I take some issue with. She's still nonchalant, she's still a prodigy, and she's still aura farms. The biggest issue with the Nijigasaki anime is how it transitioned events from All-Stars, as an anime structure is way shorter than a full-length visual novel. Along with that, the reception of season 2 of All-Stars made them change a ton of elements, including how the characters are introduced. The association doesn't exist, and this has some interesting changes to Mia's arc, and I feel conflicted over it. Just to provide a little bit of context, back in 2022, I made a thread on how amazing this episode was and how I related to it, and while I do agree with some points I made back then, the way All-Stars make me feel is way more impactful than the anime. But firstly, a synopsis. Since the association doesn't exist, the conflict for Mia's character comes from Lanzhu about to leave Nijigasaki. In response, Mia creates a song for Lanzhu, thinking that the reason Lanzhu is leaving is because her songs aren't top-notch, leading her to full-on lock in for the song. She's doing all-nighters barely sleeping, and when Lanzhu listens to it, she rejects it, causing Mia to lash out. Rina talks to her, and we get the same conversation on Mia's past, with Rina once again saying that she wants to hear Mia's voice in her songs. She creates a song just for herself, sings it for Lanzhu, and everyone's all happy. Now on first glance, these two situations seem relatively the same. They both target issues of lack of confidence, unhealthy habits, and how Mia attributes music making to her entire worth in life. The anime even gets bonus points for directly showing her unhealthy habits. She's all clumped up in her room and clearly still awake from last night, and has the exact same feeling as when I complete an edit after hours of constant work. Rereading my thread made me slightly cringe in how depressed I was publicly outing it to the world, but then I realized I'm making this video, so nothing really changed. There are some issues I have now in retrospect that makes Mia's arc in the anime less impactful for me, and it comes down to why Mia's character worked in All-Stars. Remember those 3 reasons? The individuality of Nijigasaki, Lanzhu's fiasco, and comparison. The anime only has 2 of these reasons, and it changes one of them as well. But firstly, no level of comparison is shown at all in the anime. It's not a deal breaker, but my personal bias makes me sad because comparison is a big part of any creative hobby. There is no Shizuku, there is no Nata-chan, or Yu Takasaki making a song that shatters Mia's reality. The thing that causes Mia to crack is Lanzhu saying she doesn't fuck with her music, and most of that is self-inflicted. Mia is so insecure that the moment Lanzhu decides to leave, she thinks it's because of her music being the reason. The anime conflict is very internal. It shows how dangerous it is for Mia, attaching her entire life and worthiness to someone. It doesn't even matter if Lanzhu meant to be malicious or not, it affected Mia the same way. It still works given that it still deals with the individuality of finding her own reason to produce music, and also involves Lanzhu in a way. What breaks it in my opinion is the scenario being too small scale. The situation in All-Stars was very general, and it could realistically happen to anyone. What made it have more of an impact was the fact that stakes actually existed. There was a rivalry going on, and there's an actual need for Mia's music. It isn't that Mia depends on them, they depend on Mia. It made her feel burdened, like how the Taylor family had been doing to her. And this time, she has a very clear reason to feel that way. The comparison. That comparison to Anata-chan's work. It's that combination that breaks Mia apart and provides a very serious message on the passion of art and the reasons why we create, even if it may be hidden. The anime situation is more interpersonal, breaking apart from determining your life and worthiness on music and it being for someone. All-Stars has a similar message, but the way to get to that message makes it more impactful in my opinion. I hope that's not a nothing burger. I put a lot of time into thinking about this. Both of these work, but I find myself relating a lot more to All-Stars because of the context. Despite everything I just said though, I do like anime Mia more than All-Stars Mia. And that's for one specific reason. YuuTakasaki. Season 2 changes Mia's involvement in the series very quickly. While she's still a loner and nonchalant, she still has a lot more scenes doing stuff. They make it a point to show that she does not care about school in the slightest because she's a prodigy and knows everything, which helps contribute to our focus episode later on. But within those scenes, the relationship between YuuTakasaki and Mia begin to grow, and it's one of the best parts about the season. And it also pisses me off for one big reason. The main dynamic that comes from Yu and Mia is that Yu is still an amateur and wants to learn all about music, with Mia serving as sort of mentorship. Mia calls her baby-chan, and while she's a bit cold at first, they bond pretty quickly. With Yu having more moments to flesh herself out, it makes the relationship more intriguing and engaging. It happens very early on as well, letting it build naturally before Mia's focus episode. And this is the part where I guess we slightly ticked off. There is so much potential in the relationship between Yu and Mia that isn't touched on. I might get slandered for this, so just know this is my opinion, but while I think Rina helping Mia makes sense thematically in the story, I do think it should have been YuuTakasaki to help Mia, but only in the anime universe. In All Stars, it makes perfect sense. Both have trouble expressing their emotions, yada yada. In the anime, it still works because of the same issue, but there was another solution that was present because of the unique story of the anime, and it's Yu. Both are composers, and it would be an amazing character moment for Yu to be the one to help Mia realize her true passion for music making, since Mia has been the mentor for the most part. A sort of student teaches the mentor type of situation. And another thing that ticks me off is how the situation could be blended in with the All Stars version to create like a more in-depth version of Mia. Imagine a universe where Mia and Yu bond together very early on in the series. Mia underestimates Yu because she's an amateur, and the whole association thing is happening, and a fun rivalry starts to begin. When Shizuku chooses Yu's song over Mia, it breaks something in her. She's still feeling the things she feels in chapter 22, but now becomes more personal since she knows Yu, and it creates a stronger impact on her character and her ego. This student that she's been mentoring in a sense has got the upper hand, and she, like her All-Stars counterpart, has to figure out her real reason for making music. Fanfiction? Maybe, but I really like Yu and Mia's relationship, and it'd be nice to have a lot more depth put into what is a natural relationship with similar hobbies. That same feeling is present in Nijiyon, where it's just Mia, not the All-Stars version, not the anime version, just both. It's one of the few series where they really acknowledge the All-Stars universe, so I'll take what I can get. There's a ton of highlights in the series from Mia. And if you're wondering why I'm talking about ships, not really Mia as a character, it's mostly because she's the same in both universes, so I gotta talk about something for the anime section. I would mention her involvement in the OVA and movie, but I'm gonna be real, she didn't really get much to do. Spoilers for the first movie, but the post-credits scene teases Mia's mom having an important role in the next movie, which means it's definitely gonna involve around Mia's pressure with her family name, which is something to look forward to. I think that's it though. Not much else to really go off of. Except the new visual novel game released a month or so ago. Yeah, I'll make this brief. The sequel to All-Star Story is not worth $40, but it does have endings for all the characters, so it's worth it in some way for CFUS fans, if those still exist. The premise is that Anata-chan loses all of her memories, and it's up to her to remember one of the girls. There are some secret endings, but for the purpose of this video, let's just focus on Mia. So in a nice twist, Mia's route in story mainly focuses on Anata-chan, as she goes for a similar experience to Mia. She lost her memories, and she has to re-find her reason for making music since it's gone. She listens to all the music she once made, but she doesn't know how she made it, and a big part of the story is Mia relating to it and trying to help her out. It still very much has the themes of standards and expectations, but it's still cool. And I'm done. I'm recording this while I've been sick. I woke up with like the most, like, I got premonition of a sore throat, and I started, once I swallowed, I knew I was fucked up. I only had a limited amount of time to record this. By the time tomorrow hits, I have a feeling that I'm gonna be fully like ill bed, so I had to record this. You can probably tell, but oh god. Yeah, I just swallowed. I'm gonna have a sore throat. It's over for me. And that's it for the Mia Taylor video. Definitely not as long as the Lanzhu video, and I may have gotten a bit too personal in it, but Mia Taylor is one of those characters I heavily relate to, so in turn, you're gonna get a very personal video. This Terranesso is extremely huge. I can't even... Yeah, that's your Mia Taylor Terranesso appearance. No one really warns you on how heavy these Terranessos are, but yeah,